Watch this.
Our system of checks and balances has seen its fair share of checks from the judicial branch. Another federal judge has paused part of another Trump funding freeze for being unconstitutional. But Planned Parenthood is still feeling the impact of being in legal limbo.
They want answers because it must be a mistake.
He was supposed to be in Boise to cover the big Boise Basque Festival, Hialdi. Instead, a journalist from the Basque Country has been left behind, denied entry into America without an explanation. Meanwhile, the Basque language has made it far and wide, able to survive and thrive. We're going to take you back to its origins and show you its future in southern Idaho. Earlier this month, congressional Republicans and their supporters across the country celebrated the passage of President Trump's large tax and spending policy bill. Hundreds of pages of tax cuts and budget increases for certain agencies, as well as nutritional regulations and investments into rural America. Cuts to Medicaid. That's one of the big issues kind of tucked into this, specifically cutting off reimbursements for any organization that provides abortions. A legislative way to defund Planned Parenthood in the name of stopping wasteful spending. Although one person's legislative tactic is another's illegal tactic. Just yesterday, a federal judge put a stop to that plan, at least temporarily. Still, Planned Parenthood in Idaho says the confusion is causing a clear rippling effect.
The complicated web of federal funding and reimbursement payments to Planned Parenthood has a new development.
A federal judge issued a preliminary injunction that blocked that provision in the reconciliation bill that unconstitutionally defunded Planned Parenthood from going into effect.
It is a temporary decision, but one that Misty Delicarpini-Tolman, Idaho State Director for Planned Parenthood Alliance Advocates, says her group is working to explain to impacted patients.
We are constantly concerned about the message that the public is receiving from various headlines they're seeing on social media or in the news, and we're doing our best to educate the public.
Planned Parenthood says the initial news of the funding change certainly sent emotional waves through their health system.
There was quite the chilling effect across the community who didn't know if they could go to their trusted healthcare provider to get the care that they needed.
Planned Parenthood and other prohibited entities can once again receive Medicaid reimbursement, for now. But the weeks since the law was enacted showed what the future could hold depending on the court's final decision.
There will be cancers that go undetected. There will be STIs that go untreated and therefore spread. People won't be able to access the birth control, abortion care that they need to be able to plan their families and their futures. And that safety net that exists within our health system will be destroyed across the country.
The reconciliation bill, also referred to as the Big Beautiful Bill, put the funding rules under a cost-cutting subheading. Critics say it goes well beyond that.
To be really clear, this law is not about fiscal responsibility, the way they're trying to tout it. Abortion is already excluded from federal funding. This is a targeted ideological attack on healthcare and on healthcare providers that might provide abortion access elsewhere.
Elsewhere is a key in Idaho, a state that already prohibits abortions and public money that goes towards it. The reality, advocates say, this would compromise a list of other healthcare benefits for thousands of people.
We've expanded our services to include vasectomy care and menopausal care. So things that people are going through every day in their lives and wanting to go to a trusted name, a trusted healthcare provider.
Republicans in Congress and Idaho have been very clear. They are determined to prevent federal funds from supplementing abortion care as a political issue and as a budgeting item. Planned Parenthood believes that the concept will not stand in a court of law.
Defunding Planned Parenthood is an unconstitutional attack that will not only decimate abortion access nationwide, but will also harm the 1.1 million people with Medicaid who come to Planned Parenthood health centers for care every year.
So the court system will ultimately decide, and Planned Parenthood worries that if this causes closures of Planned Parenthood locations, that the medical system wouldn't be able to handle the influx of people that would be looking for new providers. They also worry that some people would just decide that they're sensitive medical care, they're not comfortable finding a new provider, Brian. So again, this is an injunction at the federal court level. If it continues this way, I guess it's not out of the question this could go to the Supreme Court or something like that.
Yeah, so how is that different than what already went to the Supreme Court back in June that said states can take money out of Planned Parenthood through Medicaid.
Right. So it's the difference between federal distributions and state distributions. So this is a different mechanism at the same idea. And when you talk to supporters of the idea, is that we don't believe that this type of federal dollars should be going towards these programs, towards abortions. However, you hear in states like Idaho, and Idaho's not alone in this, the argument being, okay, well, we don't do abortions anyway. So it's kind of the guilt by association. So I've seen some people question, what if Planned Parenthood called themselves something else in Idaho? Not something that is likely going to happen, but it is a nuanced conversation for sure.
So you said this could go to the Supreme Court, but they've already kind of given an indication of which way they would lean on this decision.
Yeah, we've seen a clear indication from this Supreme Court on how they lean and how they rule. So Planned Parenthood had a few weeks into the window of what is the reality here. It's paused for now, and that pause could go on for quite some time, or it could be overruled by a different court.
All right, thanks, Judge. Or Judge. Joe.
No problem.
It's been a decade, but Hayaldi returns to Boise this week. It's the biggest Basque festival in the United States, and because the 2020 version was canceled because of COVID-19, organizers are expecting a very high turnout this year. Since its inception, the event has been international, with visitors from the Basque Country showing up to see the largest Basque diaspora per capita outside northern Spain. And since that first festival back in 1987, members of the Basque Press Corps have come over here to cover it. But this year, there's been a bit of a problem. Aspen Shumpert spoke with one journalist from the Basque Country whose journey to Boise ended almost as soon as it began.
This is one of the most important gatherings of the Basque American community, which is very important for us as Basques.
Since the very first Hayaldi Festival in Boise nearly 4 decades ago, one public radio and broadcast news station from the Basque Country has traveled to the City of Trees to cover the events.
This might look to you that it's just a festival, that's people drinking on the streets or listening to live music and watching sports. But there's more to that. For us, the Idaho Hayaldi is a reminder that we have a strong community here in the U.S., which comes from long ago, from the 1800s, of shepherders coming here, that now are part of the American society.
Mikel Reparaz, an editor for EITB News, says it's something him and his team see important to be at.
It's a must for us to be here, to cover, to interview Basque Americans, especially in Idaho, because this is one of the strongholds of the Basque community, right?
8 journalists from EITB News are here to cover the events this year, but the 9th member on their team wasn't able to make it.
It is a good place, right, to meet our brothers and sisters overseas, so that since I am Basque, I'm journalist, well, I'm interested on it, or my interest on it is both personal and professional, of course.
Radio journalist with EITB News, Urtzi Garcia, was looking forward to covering Hayaldi since it's been 30 years since he's attended it for fun.
It was so great, unforgettable.
This time around, he won't get the chance to be here.
My wife and me were in Munich, ready to get on the plane, when suddenly I heard my name from the loudspeakers. I went to the boarding gate.
He says he gave them his passport, and the attendants at the gate told him he was denied access to enter the United States and wasn't allowed on the plane.
As you can imagine, me and my wife were surprised, petrified. It was like, wow. Why? What happened? We don't understand.
He says a month before the trip, he had gone to the U.S. Embassy in Madrid, interviewed, applied, and was approved for a journalist visa.
And the only explanation they gave me was that the day before, on Friday, they received a call from USA not to allow me to get on the plane.
The only choice he had was to return back to the Basque Country.
Yeah, it was pretty hard because I spent all day there, but we realized that there wasn't nothing to do.
With proper approvals to travel and no criminal record, Urtzi says it has to be a mistake.
I'm a journalist. I work for the Basque Public Radio. It's an official network, so I think I deserve an answer.
While the rest of his team is in Boise, they're wishing Urtzi was with them.
That's very sad for us. It's work, and it's important for him as a journalist, I guess, but it's a great experience as well to come here and to get to know this beautiful state.
Ertzi's wife was able to get on the plane. She will be here to experience Hayaldi. For Ertzi, he's still waiting for answers from the U.S. Embassy. He's reached out for further details about why he was denied, but has been left not knowing the answer. It really remains unclear, Brian. I reached out to Homeland Security here in Idaho, maybe to hear what some of those reasons are that could be possible for denial.
Reason, right.
You know, maybe they couldn't speak to Ertzi specifically,
Sure,
but could give us an idea. Haven't heard back from them, so unclear.
I hate to speculate, but does he have any idea what this could be? We were talking about this. Could it be something, I mean, because right now the administration looking at things that people post on social media.
Yeah, I asked him that. He was affiliated with a political coalition years ago. He was a media communications person for that coalition.
As a job?
As a job. He
Okay.
hasn't used social media in years. It's been several years. He doesn't think this could be the case, but like you said, a change in administration, more people looking at social media posts before accepting travel details. It's possible, but remains unclear.
Well, hopefully he gets an answer, because this is, I mean, to have it not be explained to him that's tough. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aspen. Well, as you mentioned, the Basque language, or the Basque, I should say, and it's the oldest language in Europe. It doesn't even have a known origin. When those from the East started moving into what would become Europe, they brought their own languages with them, you know, like German, Slavic, Spanish, English, those kind of things. But that was only about 3,500 years ago. And according to experts, the Basque language, or Euskara, is thousands of years older than any of those other languages. And it once spread across two countries, spoken almost all of northern Spain, across almost all of northern Spain, past the Pyrenees, well into France. Then for an entire generation, it was banned in Spain. Well, these days, the language is being kept alive, even outside of the Basque Country. 10 years ago, we had the opportunity to see how that is happening here at Boise State, as well as visit the place where it all began. And it's today's 208 Redial.
Like in the northern provinces of Spain, the Basque language is alive and well in Boise.
Ikasi nuen. Ikasi zenuen.
And has been for some time.
Basque culture is very much connected to the fabric of Boise.
It's also connected to the curriculum at Boise State.
Mushue mansuen.
Nera Lete has been teaching Basque for more than 20 years. The native of Donostia is proud to be keeping her language alive.
So it's actually the only non-Indo-European language that is spoken today in Europe.
That means it's been difficult to link its origin with any other language spoken in Europe or Asia. But it started somewhere, right?
There are different theories, but none of them have proved to be true.
Well, one of the theories can be traced to these mountains outside of Sestoa. Inside these caves, they found some drawings that dated to about 13,000 years ago. And that predates anything that we know of as the start of modern languages.
There are replicas of the drawings in Ekainberri, a museum nearby. The theory continues that the hands that drew these animals belonged to the first Basque men and women. Over time, the region was taken over by the Romantic languages, Latin, Spanish, and even French. So why not just adapt?
The language is connected to a culture, and they were, I guess, feisty enough.
However, over a 40-year period when Spain was under the rule of General Francisco Franco, the language was banned.
Okay.
A time Nere remembers well.
I am of a generation that actually attended an underground Basque school, which is called Ikastola.
Since then, it has made a kind of comeback with the adoption of a unified language and the help of Nere and the Boise State Exchange Program, which sends students to the Basque Country to continue an immersion education.
On one hand, it's a very old language, but on the other hand, it's a very young language if we consider that 80% of the speakers of Basque language are younger than 30 years old. Landatu.
As for the future of this ancient dialect, Netta believes it's in good hands in Boise.
I think it's because being Basque in Boise is cool.
I bet it is. Boise State still offers a minor in Basque Studies where you can learn the language and become one of the 900,000 from around the globe who speak Basque. They also still have the Study Abroad program where you can immerse yourself in the language by going to school, living with a family, all of it in the Basque Country. So you want to start sooner? Well, Boise has one of the few Basque preschools outside of the Basque Country, and they moved into their own building right around the time of the last Hayaldi back in 2015. rescue saved a driver who ended up in the Malheur River. And a well-known and historic bridge over the Payette River, well, that has to be torn down. Here's Richard Rodriguez with today's 411.
An online fundraiser has already raised more than $50,000 for one of the surviving roommates of the University of Idaho murder victims. Family members of Dylan Mortensen started a GoFundMe to help her pay for expenses caused by the trauma of the murders. The fundraiser will help pay Dylan to move, for long-term trauma therapy costs, and more security measures. The current goal is $65,000. You can find the link to the GoFundMe on our website at ktvb.com. We now know the names of 3 people killed in a small plane crash in Nampa on Sunday night. The coroner's office identified them as Brandon and Justine Leroy and their 23-month-old son, Paxton. The plane was only in the air for about a minute before crashing near the unoccupied building on Venice Street in Nampa. The Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board were on the scene yesterday, starting their investigation. One person was rescued after their pickup truck drove off Highway 201 in Ontario and into the Malheur River. It happened last night around 8:30. The Payette County Swift Water Rescue Team and local fire crews were able to rescue the person from the truck. They were taken to St. Alphonsus with unknown injuries. The cause of the accident is still under investigation. The Idaho Transportation Department is proposing the removal of the existing Rainbow Bridge on Highway 55 in Valley County, once a new bridge is built to replace it. The bridge was built in 1933 over the North Fork of the Payette River and no longer meets current safety standards. ITD originally planned to keep the bridge as a piece of Idaho's history, but now the department says limited use for the bridge, safety risks, and future costs are driving the agency to want to tear it down. The cost of the new bridge is over $44 million. That's the 411. I'm Richard Rodriguez.
stunning sunrises and sunsets, courtesy of those dramatic cloud formations the last couple of days. And here we go again. This posted just moments ago by Alyssa in our Idaho Weather Watchers Facebook page. The view heading up towards Idaho City on Highway 21. Look at the storm clouds gathering. Things are rocking and rolling again over the Central Mountains. Now, all is quiet here in Boise. Quiet but hot. We are at 96 degrees, Twin in the mid 80s. Pretty comfy there. We're in the 80s as well up in the mountains. But as we look at our satellite and radar picture, you can see things are pretty spicy over the Central Mountains right now, starting slowly now to trickle down towards the Boise Mountains. That's very likely where that storm cloud shot came from, around Loman. There was a special weather statement put out by the National Weather Service for a strong storm that was producing nickel-sized hail and very gusty winds. We are now also starting to see some storms rolling into eastern Oregon and far south central Idaho. So these storms will continue for the next several hours. So we do have fire weather warnings in place for the Central Mountains and much of eastern Oregon, where actually some of those storms could turn severe, mostly for winds. So this green kind of bullseye you see over Burns and portions of eastern Oregon, that's because we could see 58-mile-per-hour winds or greater produced by those storms. So this is kind of par for the course from the last several days. We are stuck in this very stagnant, predictable pattern. As we look ahead to our high-res futurecast here, looking ahead to about 11 or 12 o'clock tonight, we may have a couple more nocturnal thunderstorms firing off just like we saw last night. Those all fizzle out as we head towards the morning hours tomorrow. We'll likely wake up to another beautiful sunrise tomorrow as clouds will still be overhead. And then for your Wednesday afternoon, copy and paste. Looks like, though, tomorrow we may not see as widespread or as strong of storm activity, but still, if you have outdoor plans, especially in the higher elevations of southern and central Idaho, be weather aware. Keep an eye on the sky tomorrow. Temperatures will be hot, reaching for 100 degrees Wednesday afternoon. I'm not forecasting that we'll get there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some triple-digit readings in the Treasure Valley. We'll be in those low 90s with sunshine in the Magic Valley and the 80s up in the mountains tomorrow with those pop-up storms. Again, maybe not quite as widespread as today, but they will likely develop nonetheless. Thursday, I think we'll see wider storm coverage. This is the best day, I think, of us seeing some storms or showers here in the Treasure Valley. That also, though, kicks off a cool down as we head into the first few days of August. Yes, we may see a stray storm or two over the weekend, but chances really get dialed back by Sunday, and that's when temperatures get really comfortable. Boise drops into the 80s on Sunday, and that's where we stay through Tuesday.
couple of comments about the Planned Parenthood lawsuit, or at least the funding freeze, being partially blocked, temporarily blocked, as it were. Joe made a good point about defunding Planned Parenthood because they perform abortions, but abortion is illegal in Idaho. Make it make sense, says Chris. Meanwhile, Brad in Boise, Joe may have solved Planned Parenthood's funding issues in Idaho. Rename it. Maybe they should try unplanned parenthood. Kind of lay low, avoid all of the, well, all that goes with the name Planned Parenthood. Weird that the Basque Journalist wasn't allowed into the country, but a convicted felon is currently cavorting about Europe. Sheila, you're not wrong there. All right, well, the Basque language originated in the Pyrenees Mountains in between Italy and Spain, according to Wikipedia and Alexa from Ann. See, that's why we can't trust AI yet. Still learning. That's not true at all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app everywhere you stream.